This episode revolves around Simon, an average kid with average goals, most of which involve screwing with his younger brother Evan. He's the kind of kid that pulls the old make them go long for a pass and then steal their bike routine, ultimately forcing his brother to run all the way to school. Not only that, but when Evan finally makes it there, Simon has already asked the girl that Evan has a crush on to an upcoming dance. I've never met a person named Simon that was so smooth with the ladies. Usually they're either total nerds or hell-bent on killing John McClane. Anyway, Evan is late for first period, and we see that Simon is in the same class, which doesn't say much about his level of intelligence. Also, they have one of those chubby teachers that gets off on drawing attention to the fact that you're running behind. What's the excuse? You overslept? A relative died? Your jerky brother stole your bike and made you run 8 blocks before catching your breath? It doesn't matter, because you're late and should be treated like the tardy scum that you are. Anything to help make the teacher feel a little better about his miserable life that's already half over and spiraling out of control. At least he has that one shred of authority to cling to that helps alleviate the overwhelming desire to hang himself in the janitor's closet during lunch. Wow, I'm getting kind of dark here. Anyway, today is a special day because the computer lab teacher Mr. Poe has a new invention. Something revolutionary called virtual reality. Real science fiction stuff, I know. But an issue arises before trying it out. Keep in mind that this story takes place in that magical time where the overall health of your computer was indicated by either a skull or a smiley face. It's an issue that can be fixed by simply pressing a bunch of buttons. And it's this episode that I finally realized no one in movies or TV ever uses a mouse. They just mash the keyboard until something on the screen changes. You could say that they're all using DOS, but there are still some pretty blatant offenders even to this day. So it's time for the first test run, and what could be better than reliving the simulated experience of getting up early in the morning to go to school? But things are a little off because Simon's self-riding bike usually brings coffee and sings public domain songs. Odd. To add to the weirdness, he finds that a disgusting, slimy, beady-eyed, cackling silver midget has commandeered his dad's office. I'm sorry, I don't want to offend anyone here. I mean, a disgusting, slimy, beady-eyed, cackling silver short person has commandeered his dad's office. Turns out he's a virus and will be downloaded directly into Simon's brain once the game ends. Or in 10 minutes, whichever comes first. But once the helmet is off, everything seems normal until Simon mentions the whole virus thing. Then Mr. Poe, totally out of character for any legitimate person of science and technology, is deeply offended and yells at him to leave. That's about the time when Simon finds that a VGA computer port has appeared on his palm. Also, everyone is moving backwards and giving really incorrect answers.
Does anyone know what 2 plus 2 equals?
5?
Correct. Anyone else?
6. 6 minutes left.
Hey, it still makes more sense than Common Core math. But Simon soon learns that karma's a bitch when his bike is locked, forcing him to run home. Where we see even more sci-fi nonsense when he and Evan appear to have some sort of an internet video-based conversation through the computer. So Evan reveals that he was the one behind it the whole time in order to get back at Simon for all the crap he's pulled. But then Evan is interrupted by the virus, and it looks like he hasn't quite gotten the hang of proper blue screen keying yet. So Evan tells him about an abort code but is disconnected just before revealing it. That can mean only one thing. His time is up. But Simon thinks of the abort code in the nick of time. It was Evan's locker combination. And in a display of sheer cockiness, Simon decides to throw out a one-liner before pressing any key, which leaves the virus with plenty of time to do exactly what he does. And in a matter of seconds, the virus goes from a ridiculous punchline, riding a bike through the front door and sliding up the guardrail, to a vicious pedophile. Why do I say vicious pedophile, you ask? Because the virus is about to forcibly insert his male connector into Simon's female slot. Just a little computer humor. So Simon is about to have the virus downloaded straight into his brain, which doesn't make too much sense considering that it's through a cable that only transmits video. But rather anticlimactically, Simon presses any key with seemingly little restraint. This causes the virus to lose his shit and phase out of existence, but not before revealing that viruses have salivary glands.
Rule number 2. Forget rule number 1.
There you go, Simon. Now did it kill you to say that after he was defeated? So now everything is back to normal, and they lived happily ever after. Simon forgives Evan, but still steals his bike again, so no lessons were learned. Just the way a kid's show should be. It's a very sci-fi heavy episode, with things that amazingly do actually exist nowadays, like Skyping and even virtual reality. The only decent kind of virtual reality they had back then was that Windows 95 Maze screensaver. Man, I could stare at that thing all day.